Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Adam Perlis, the CEO and founder of B150, and today we have a very special episode that I want to share with you guys. We are having one of our product designers, Sam, joining us today to talk a little bit about some of the new features that we're going to hopefully be rolling out in the coming months. Now, Sam joins us as a product designer who really just graduated from school. He has a little bit of experience under his belt. He's been trained in the more classical ways as a product designer, but prior to joining us, he actually had pretty limited experience coding. And we have gone through a whole baptism process with him in training him how to become a design engineer or vibe coder. And I think his transformation has been pretty tremendous. He's going to talk a little bit about what that's been like working with us and learning about new workflows and new tools and new skills. So you'll definitely hear from him on that later. But before we get to that, I actually want to have Sam walk you through some of the things that he has built himself. I would say 90% of this work is all Sam. I, of course, helped him with some of the planning and guidance, but the actual code that got onto the page from Sam's mind and onto the actual screens, especially leveraging some of the coding assistant tools, in this case, Cursor, that was all him. And, it's very exciting. So we focused on the front end part of this experience first. Sam and another member of our team, Kat, worked together to essentially build out, a lot of the user experience and design work first. But then Sam kind of took that to the next level and started to bring that into the coding environment. So we're going to talk about all those things. Stay tuned. Cool. So I want to introduce you to Sam. Sam, why don't you take it away? I want you to walk us through some of the features that we've been building at Academy. Maybe you can frame it up for the audience first. Like, what are we building and why are we building it?
Ooh, thank you so much, Adam. That's a very good question. So, well, first, it's like the world is changing. We are having a different kind of builders. Typically there's usually this whole process of like user research and like you have 3 months timelines and all of these things are getting cramped into one weekend. And so there is a need for us to build for the next generation of builders to represent them, give them a space to thrive, a space to show their works, a space to talk about the projects they are working on, their progress, things like that. Possibly meet, investors, users. We want to build all of that in the same place. And so a lot of the work we've been doing is to think about how we can build for the next generation of builders. How can we redefine what a social community can look like and bring that into a platform like this and then provide it to the people that will be using it. And so this has taken a lot of research, a lot of work, comparing, shout out to Kat, comparing a lot of the existing tools and solutions in the market and figuring out ways we can be there and build for the people that, needs to see it. So without further ado, I'm just going to walk you through um, some of what we've done so far. If yeah, so okay, so this is introducing you to the marketplace. That's what we call it for now. And it's basically a place where uh, you can list your products. You can, whatever products you've built, you list it on here. It's like a mini. I don't know if I can say it. Like it's not a mini. It's like a product on maxi. Basically product on steroids. And so what we've done so far is to build a way. Is to create a way where you as a builder can have your product listed here in different categories, reach the audience that it needs to reach without them necessarily needing to do all the jump all the orders of finding you. So far, it's basically been a lot of fun, learning to build this out to life. In this case, we have multiple categories we are planning for. We're thinking about like products and startups, which is basically tools, apps, um, I don't know, infrastructure, tools and apps, actually, not infrastructure. We have like templates, design. We have templates and design. So basically, this is more suited for the visual, the people that are into visuals. So you design like an artwork, you design a logo, you build a template, whatever. We are thinking about you too in this process. For people that build codes and components, trying to make reusable components for the web, for apps, all of those things. We're thinking about that too. Automation and agents. Now, this is very important, especially considering how the market and the industry is evolving. A lot of talks about MCPs, a lot of talks about automation, all of those things. We're already thinking about that in the process. And so we're trying to bring that in, or we are bringing that in for you very soon. So stay tuned. Filmmaking and animation. Now, this is very key, especially as someone that came from a creative perspective of creative background. A lot of the times we don't have a lot of these tools don't think about um, filmmakers and animators. And so what we are doing is to provide a platform for them to also be able to showcase what they've worked on, from storyboarding to your final output. We're thinking about all of that with you. We have music and sound, also the same producer, AI, whatever, all of those things under this category, gaming, and then courses and resources. So we basically are thinking about the next generation of builders. We have all of this covered. I don't know if you have any questions about this, Adam, before I move on to the next.
No, this is a great summary. I mean, I think the main point here is we want to, give a place for our community to start listing some of the great things that they're creating. And it doesn't have to be people that are currently in our community. We may extend outside of our community too, but we want a place for people to find the best in class
Hmm.
tools for the various jobs they may have out there in Gen AI. That may be a full product suite, like let's say Midjourney for text to image and or text to video creation, or that may just be a design system and template. That may be a singular code component, or in a different category, something like a marketing automation or some element for a film could even be a SREF
Hmm.
style, right, for film, Gen AI filmmaking. But the point is, we want a place for people to come to find out about the best in class tools in Gen AI, and this is the go-to resource to be able to find it. So Sam has been spearheading this, and he's definitely worked out a lot of those screens and different parts of the experience. So Sam, do you want to walk us through like what are some of the other parts of this experience? Maybe we can scroll through this page, talk a little bit about it, and then we can talk about some of the other sub pages that we've
Yeah,
created.
really happy to do that. I was gonna piggyback off what you said. I think that a lot of the things we're doing is to bring the fragmented marketplaces into one place, so you can find everything you need there, as a builder, as a designer, as a creative, just to find everything in one space. And so yes, a lot of the work we've done is to think about all of those processes. I'm just gonna click on this one, to just give a glimpse into the work we've done. So we have this beautiful screen, which basically would show, the product name, the product's info, your rating, the tag you're in, or the tag or the category you're in. And then we have the description. We're trying to give builders the chance to show their product in as you know in the best way they can. And so we have this. And most importantly, we have the review, which would be, a way to communicate the value, the potential value of your product to people or to interested or prospective shoppers. Um, we think that we think that with this we can help properly articulate it, and just not for it not just to be abstract. Typically you see 5 stars, 7 stars, whatever. We are trying to make that count. When they see 5 star, it is 5 star. When they see 4 stars, it is 4 stars. And so this is done by so we have this review, and then your team, and a lot of the work that, I mean, personally, this was really a big learning curve, having to think about the using components and using like the existing um, style guides and the design system rather, seeing how all of that would play out into this and thinking about it in a really granular way. Um, it's very unlike anything I'm used to. I'm much more on the visual side, but seeing lines of code and text was a struggle, but we survived. We survived. Uh, so
I think one just to interject, like just to talk a little bit about the ratings system and the assessment and the pros and cons. One of the things that Sam and Kat in their initial research kind of identified was like how a lot of reviews and review sites felt a bit disingenuous. People would, crowd the reviews with their friends and family or paid or even paid people that they literally, paid them to come and write a nice review about them. And we wanted to make the review process a lot more democratic and also genuine. And so, we kind of look towards other industries to see like, okay, well, how do we make it more genuine? And we kind of looked at things like the wire cutter in technology, and there's several other sites that are kind of like it that I think do a good job of really editorializing and providing expert level guidance. I think like Tom's Guide is another one in tech, and really not make it pay for play in some ways, like we're thinking about maybe having some pay component to this, but instead like separating our editorial view from the payment component, and also separating reviews in general from not having broadly user reviews because that opens it up to disingenuousness, and instead using an expert crew of people to be able to review each product and provide clarity in terms of what is truly the best in market, depending on the category of thing that you are looking at. So yeah, I just wanted to add that a little bit of color to what
yeah,
Sam was saying before, um, but yeah, Sam, I think like kind of going on that thread of like how you needed to like think differently about componentizing things and going from design to code, and like how that mindset shifts a little bit. Can you talk to the audience about that, like maybe even honing in on like a specific idea or component that you were like working on or struggling with?
yeah. Thank you. I think that the one big thing I struggled with in this on this page would be this hero section. I think that especially because it was one layer on another layer, and this was it was a very, like, I needed to critically think about all of the different approach, the layers to it, the how it's placed, the positioning, things like that. And so it's like, even though designing this by itself was one way, was one easy step per se, because it's just like wrapped around. It was a whole new dynamic for me thinking about how it would feel when it's layered on another one. Um, and I think that one thing that helps me was, especially when you're working with AI to try to figure out these things, is to be very specific with what it is you're trying to achieve, because AI can be this overzealous assistant that just goes out of its way to do and fix things that you didn't ask it to. And for me, that was overwhelming, because I'm like, I don't even know what's going on all the way there. Like, just stick to this. And so, a very good tip that I had was that I would find the code, which was very important for me, or was a big step for me actually, because I am not used to code. So I have to figure out the ways to read the code, see where it starts and where it ends, and then reference that when I'm chatting with the LLM and basically saying, hey, I need you to do this way, this way. Sometimes add image references. Um, However, I used to do image references alone, and then I saw that it doesn't do a great job, especially when there are nuances involved. If it was just a flat design, or I'm just trying to do this, it would probably do it. But when there are like multiple nuances, it's really hard for it to separate the nuance from the visuals. And so I have to, um, find the code and reference the code, and then using Figma MCP, figure out like the styling and things like that. I think initially one of the things I did was to actually, and this was in retrospect, it was a good workaround, but it was very unnecessary. So this background was initially designed by Adam. It was designed by Adam, and so I copied it as an SVG, and then every single time it was rendering, it had to render the entire background as an SVG. And so, like, because I copied the code for
Mm.
it, and so seeing all that and seeing um, what's the best way to optimize for performance? How do we approach this? I think that this was definitely something I struggled with, especially when it then came to responsiveness. You know, how to make it responsive, and I'm like, yep, this is where my enemies are after me or something. But yeah, this component was definitely one that puts me through a lot. But I think that the takeaway for me from this was just you've got to like understand what you're trying to communicate. Like you have to treat the AI, or your AI assistant, as it were, as a kid in so many ways, and try to like be explicit and to be patient. And there were so many times I had typed like, "Bro, I didn't even ask you for this," sort of. But having to put all of that in and be patient and take it one step at a time without rushing through multiple processes at the same time. I think that was very helpful in, approaching these problems.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an excellent point and something a lot of people get a ton of insight and value from. It's like so many people will just try, as you said, to like take a screenshot or even try to feed it in via like a Figma
Hmm.
MCP and expect that it is just going to nail the CSS every single time and understand what you're doing. But when you start to deal with like more complex components, especially where like in this case where we're like kind of layering basically two components on top of each other and they both need to behave relative to each other but also responsively, then it's probably not going to
Hmm.
get it right the
Yeah.
first time. In fact, like it may never get it right. Like you may like need to either go
Hmm.
multiple rounds, or you may need to learn how to code, the CSS of this thing yourself so you know how to fix it or
Yeah.
troubleshoot it and figure out why it's not working. So, I think one of the big lessons for sure is like learning how to speak the language of like CSS and HTML, like really helps explain to the LLM what you are trying to achieve here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like being explicit, like I need this to be a background element. It needs to expand the full width and height of its container and have
Hmm.
no bleed, right? It needs to bleed off the edge. And I need the top pick component to overlay on top of that. There needs to be left padding and
Yeah.
bottom padding,
Yeah.
right? So it's like that
Yeah.
explicit type of language is what the LLM will understand and be able to actually execute on. But if you just rely on its image analysis or its MCP analysis through via
Hmm.
Figma, then you may just keep going in circles over and over and
Yeah.
over again. So I think that's like probably one of the biggest hurdles for you as a new developer, kind of learning some of
Hmm.
that terminology. Also, hard lessons with, optimization. It's like, oh, why is this like loading the page so slowly? Oh, like it turns out like 1,000 line
Hmm.
SVG isn't a
Yeah.
good idea to like paste into my code block. Maybe I should use the SVG image version, right,
Hmm.
instead, right? So, and those are like things that you kind of just learn over time, and or you're lucky to have an
Yeah.
experienced developer working alongside you to coach
Yeah.
you through that. But yeah, I think you managed it just fine, and we're actually able to get a lot of this done very quickly. I mean, Sam, how long did it take you, start to finish, to maybe like do the entire front end? Because there's more. There's
Yeah.
more pages. We'll go through them, but like start to
I mean,
finish, how long did
if
it take you? You
we
think?
like put everything together, I think it's probably gonna be actually maybe about a month or two. And I think it's because like you said, I had the support of someone that was experienced, that is experienced in this. And so it's like whenever I was stuck, there are so many problems that we had to troubleshoot together that if I had to figure it myself, I wouldn't even know where to start from, you know. And so I would
Right.
say like it's been from start to finish, everything we've done, all the pages. It's been about, I mean, we've been working together 3 months, 4 months now. But if I were to compress all of that together, it's probably going to be 6 weeks, 8 weeks, because of the nuances that were involved
Yeah.
in that. But yeah, it is, yeah, it's been that. And I also wanted to say before we move past that, that the expectation of what AI should be able to produce, whatever that bar is, you probably want to bring it down a bit, especially as a new designer, as a new developer, because the problem is we have the Figma MCP, which promises that it takes your design and then converts it to code. We have Cursor that tells you, oh, I'm going to find it, I'm going to build it to, in a precise way. But the problem is, a lot of times it doesn't. Eventually, there are times when it
Right.
wouldn't be able to pull your code and it has to resort to screenshots. And screenshots, again, is just a flat image, doesn't have any nuance. And so having that, you have to, I think what helped me in that case was to figure out my starting point. So I'm like, what is the barest minimum that AI can do that I can then build upon? And so,
Yeah.
um, for example, it could be on a page, it could be the layout. I just all my focus would be making sure that the layout is fine. Like it sits. It might not be the visual is not perfect, but I know that every element sits where they should, and then I can edit and adjust based on the sections. In some, it was probably like I want the form to sit well. I want the form rendering to be fine. I want the visuals to match our brand guide. But I had to figure out a starting point, allowed AI do the barest minimum it could do, and then build on that. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
that's also something I learned that I had to learn by force.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think learning, where the starting point is and also the capabilities of the tools, I think is really important. Like, you learned quickly that feeding just an image in, like, doesn't really do much, right? It does an okay job for structural
Yeah.
things. Like, it's like, okay, I get like this is supposed to be here, this is supposed to be here, and I'm gonna kind of guess what you're looking for. And then sometimes it'll get like some of the
Hmm.
colors, and broadly speaking, like, oh, it's like a serif font or like a sans serif font. But for the most part, it does like a pretty terrible job of
Yeah.
interpreting an image and bringing that into, actual code and
Yeah.
a front end display. Like if you had just taken a screenshot of what you designed in Figma, which we
Yeah.
can
I
show
was.
you what we designed in Figma too, um, and fed that in, it would do an absolutely horrendous job. No matter what you use, whether you use Lovable or any of the tools, and just note that like Lovable, Cursor, Windsurf, they all use the same LLMs, right? Maybe some of them use for image analysis something a little bit different than
Hmm.
the others, but for the most part, they use the
Hmm.
same ones, and they've probably figured out which was the best for which thing. But again, image analysis is like pretty poor. It's still not
Hmm.
there yet, right? For AI, and but what's better is definitely the Figma MCP because it's been very built very specifically to connect basically your Figma code because actually Figma is technically built
Hmm.
on code, um, and to the actual front end coding architecture, which in the Figma MCP they use basically Tailwind and React, right? And translate them, right? But even that is not
Hmm.
perfect, right? They do a pretty good job. Like I'd say it's the best thing that exists out there at the moment, and it will get better, but it is not one to one. And so, kind of learning those limitations too, and also making sure those files are set up correctly. Like, I think if we looked at, maybe we can flash over to your Figma file. we can show people how we made sure that everything, is properly in a grid, right? Like, so everything is, or like, what's it called? Not grids, but auto
Oh yeah.
layout,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So everything is properly in an auto layout. Now, there's a lot of like, literature out there about making sure everything is labeled correctly. Honestly, not that important. I think Sam will attest to that too. It's more important that things are set up correctly with auto layout, and that way it can interpret the MCP easier. If it of course will, it'll help if things are labeled properly. Just because the LLM when coding it will have a little more context about what you're building,
Mhm.
you know. But for the most part, it actually gathers context from the content on
Yes.
your page, anyways. So, like, if we fed this in, it'd make the deduction that this is some sort of
Yeah.
marketplace, you know. So the importance of layer naming, I'm not sure there's like a whole lot of validity to that, or like you won't get the added benefit. And imagine how long it will
Yeah.
take to rename all
But I think
this.
that's it. That's also the layer, Adam. It's like when you think about the new approach to building, it's like you're moving from design to code pretty quickly. And so some things are in some ways trade-offs, especially because eventually you would have to communicate to AI. And I did do that. I tried to name the layers and then put them in and then try to do it. And I don't think I saw a lot of difference in the output. I had taken it
Yeah.
out and then tried to build, and it was like unnecessarily long, but I also didn't see a difference. I had to still go back to what we had before. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing I want to note about like this phase, right? Like you guys did a lot of research, like we would traditionally do in a
Hmm.
regular product design team, right? And with that research, we developed these designs and essentially like in so many ways a prototype, right? Like we didn't build it into an actual prototype for our
Hmm.
purposes, but I want to note that like for teams who are like thinking about building new features and products, like obviously a marketplace is a pretty massive undertaking, right? There's a lot of different features and functionality that need to be built, and yeah, probably would have been smart for us to like actually build this into a prototype and not one that needs to be coded, by the way, right? Like actually sometimes it is faster to just whip something up quickly. Here we could connect a few screens and build a quick little prototype with Figma and use that
Hmm.
to test, right? Like for our purposes, we had already dog fooded this a little bit with our community, and we asked around to see what people needed, and like that was enough validation for us. And we generally knew how marketplaces worked. It's not like we're completely testing a new
Hmm.
concept that's never existed. Like people know what marketplaces are. So for our purposes, we did not build a initial prototype to go and test and see if people like the experience. We knew we could just kind of move directly into production, but I want to like mention that to people that like if you're building such a big thing, it might be hard to build this into a fully functioning prototype that can be tested with code right away, right? It might be actually faster to do it the traditional method that you're used to. But if you want to kind of take that and move that into production quickly, you can do that too. And those next phases of production will be a lot more seamless, a lot more, hopefully, eventually, like more detailed and be more closer representations of going from your code to, or sorry, your design to actual code, which we know there's always been a gap between design to code with a lot of developers maybe not paying as close attention to certain things, where a designer will like really hone in on those details, and hopefully over time as they get better, we'll move faster, right? Like I mean, Sam, you can attest to this. Like the speed you're moving at now, like tell the audience about like the speed you were moving at when you started and the speed you're moving at now. Like how long does it take you to stand up a page versus like when you first started trying
Uh,
to get a page
Sylvia,
coded?
I think the best way to articulate this is that I actually built out I worked on a semi project over the weekend, built from start to finish. It was hard coded. It wasn't like fancy like this, but it was to stretch my limits. And I built out an entire couple of pages, almost 12, 15 pages, built it with code. Like through the weekend, right? And this is different from, say, when I initially started, and this is not even that far. It was just after like config, like a month after config, which happened in April, May. I'm not even sure not right now, but like after that, I had a month, whatever, and I built out because now I have a better understanding of context of the technology, um, and so now I don't know. I know it takes me at least like it takes me way less. Like I know I spent on building this page. I spent almost 2 weeks on that, and then for this entire process, we probably spent like a week, less than that to build it out. And like,
Which one? Are you
oh, I'm
pointing at
sorry.
something?
Yeah. So
Let's zoom in so that the audience can see a little
yeah.
closer. But
So for this page,
you-
I spent almost 2 weeks trying to figure out a lot of the nuances. And then for this entire flow, which is the ad flow, this took me about maybe 1 or 2 days to whip up the entire like interface, and then when I went back in to then build out like a much more refined approach to it. But like I understand that this is complicated, but it did take me like way longer than it will now if I was to do it again. And again, I would say
right,
that it's basically because I do have a lot of support. I also had to push myself to not be very reliant on the LLM. And I actually took the time to try to understand the code and what is happening. And so that helped me be able to properly articulate my vision in building out these things. So yeah, it's I think it's nice to see. It's very affirming to see the speed at which I'm moving now, because the fact that it's not a year. Like I haven't been doing this for a year. I haven't been doing this for 6 months, and seeing the kind of progress that I've made. Um, I don't know. It makes me feel glad, especially because I know that I spent the initial part of like when I was in college trying to figure this out and I couldn't. I spent almost 3 years trying to figure it out. I couldn't, and then now I'm building out like a marketplace, platform, and it's way easier than I thought it would be. So, yeah, thanks to the team.
yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. Why don't we flash over to the app again? Maybe we can just show the category pages and subcategories in the menu. Let's start with the menu. So you built out that nice menu there. Um, so that was pretty cool. I know that was a challenge. But yeah, let's maybe click into some of the category pages so we can kind of take a look at those.
Okay. Let's see. I'm not sure if I pulled. No, I did not. I did not pull from cat, but I'm just gonna go into.
Sure, yeah, you can go to a
Yeah.
subcategory page.
Um.
Um, Yeah, and you can just walk people through here
Okay.
what we've created.
So basically, one of the things we did, yeah, was to try to get granular, considering the different nuances or the different categories and subcategories that we anticipate the builders might need. And so what we did here was to figure out like, okay, if someone was trying to find code editors or find, like let's say code editors for now, how would they find it? And so this was an approach that we landed on. And one of the things that we also were thinking about was how to filter. What would be the priorities in terms of filtering? How do we anticipate that they would want to filter? How do we provide the categories in a way that they can follow the new ones, the old ones, and most importantly, based on the reviews that we have, how do we communicate to visitors that okay, these products are worth looking at. These products have been reviewed by us, and so this is some of the approach that we went through. Um, I'm gonna just click on it now. When you click on it, it brings you to the particular page, and with the label and the tag. And I think that a big part of this is to make sure that because of how we are thinking about this, we have to think about the different user personas and making sure that no one is lost in the process. Like how would a viewer or just a regular like viewer come and find these tools? How would a builder find these tools? How would a founder find these tools? Like all of these use different personas. We had to think about them, and so it was important that we could filter, through these searches
Mm,
and things. So yeah, that's the. I think this is probably going to lead back. Yeah, but that's the process that we had to take in terms of building out or thinking about these different topics. Um, yeah, I don't
yeah.
know. Let me know if you have any questions.
And one of the things that I know that was kind of a new concept to think about, and this is more on the front end, and we haven't even built out the back end just yet. Actually, Sam and myself and the team are starting to do that this week. But this was all the front end work, and part of the front end is also thinking through like routing, right? And what routing means is like, well, like I think the easiest way to explain it is like the URL structure. Like actually, if we take a look, if Sam, you want to click into that URL just to highlight it for a second, yeah. And so if you look at this, it says we're in code editors. If you like work backwards, right? Code editors, and then we're in engineering/development, and then we're in products and startups, and then we're in marketplace. So if you kind of like trace that back, and you even can see it here in the breadcrumbs, code editor, engineering development, products, startups, then marketplace. We needed to instruct the LLM that like, hey, like all of these pages actually have a relationship together. And we need you to make sure that our routes are set up so that these relationships exist between these different pages. And that was like a really critical step that I think was probably a pretty new concept to you. Right,
Yes,
Sam?
routing. It was like I remember the first time I was going to do it. I was like, Adam, I'm not sure I'm going to tell the LLM to figure this out. Like, what am I supposed to, put in here? And it's also like, recognizing the differences in how the routing can work. For example, when we designed the ad project page, that had a different approach to the like linking of the different pages, which was very interesting to see because it was way different. It was all on the same page, but it rendered differently. And so seeing how what can work for what and where it would work, I think that was definitely a learning curve for me. Um,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of these are kind of core development concepts and things that as a designer you're not always
mhm,
worried about or
mhm.
thinking about. And of course, maybe you broadly understand them. You know what a URL
Yeah.
is. You understand how URL structure
Mhm.
kind of works. But you haven't really thought that, oh, there needs to be like kind of a relationship between these things, and there needs to be some code that like explains, you know, how they are
Mhm.
interconnected and how even this URL
Yeah.
gets
Yeah.
generated, right? So I think that's like another thing where like the value of learning some basic concepts in code just will provide you so much great foundation to helping you become a better vibe coder or design engineer. And yes, like you can depend upon the AI to help you also learn about
Mhm.
those things, right? Like, so when you don't know something, have it explain it to
Yeah.
you. Like, and even in plain English, like we did that so many times together. I just would say in plain English, to the LLM, like, hey, I don't know how to do this. Like today we learned about pull
Mhm.
requests, which is a concept inside of GitHub. And I was like, I don't know anything about pull requests. Tell me everything you know about it. Help walk me through how to do one. And we did it. We did it together. We learned about what a
Yeah.
pull request is. So I encourage you, in the audience to do the same as like Sam and I have been doing, and Kat too, and just kind of learning as you go and learning these concepts. But yeah, even just like a beginner course on HTML, CSS, JavaScript, I think would really be would go a long way. And also like maybe some basics in like how servers work
Mhm.
and stuff like that. Some sort of beginner's course
Yeah.
somewhere is a good starting point that will really help ground you. Um, so I think that's a good place
Mhm.
to wrap, Sam. One thing I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention at the beginning, but I certainly will mention it in the post. So Sam has been doing a tremendous job for us. I mean, as you can see, he's super knowledgeable. He is incredibly talented, and he is actually in the market for a new role. Unfortunately, we can't hire him at B150 because we are still in the process of learning how to make money. But as soon as we have enough, we're going to steal him right back. But in the meantime, Sam is available for opportunities. He is living in the New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania area, and open to work. So if you're looking to hire somebody really fantastic at the mid level, Sam is your man. I cannot recommend him enough. So more to come on that. If you want to get in touch with Sam, please reach out to him on his LinkedIn. I know he's on there quite a bit. He also produces some amazing content on there that you can follow along with. But Sam, thank you so much for joining me today to talk about all of this. I'm just so thrilled and excited to launch some great content and great, features for our community that I think is really gonna help them grow. And you have been an integral part of that. So thank you.
Adam. I think that what the work we're doing here is very important for the next generation of builders. I'm excited about it. I can't wait for this to go live. But yeah, it's been a learning curve. It's been a learning process. It's been an exciting learning process, and I'm just excited for the best chance to put this out more. So thank you for everything.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Sam. I will see you in our meetings tomorrow. Excited to build the back end for this whole platform. Thanks again. See you later.
Yeah, built in public, no mask, no fronting, turn nothing to something. Now everybody want in.